The story begins in a prison on the east coast of the United States. This prison houses criminals who committed truly terrible offenses such as driving without a helmet or helping old ladies cross the street against a red light. The warden believes that violence is the only language these scums understand. With him, a broken arm or leg was truly and absolutely the least of the punishments.
You want more?
Please, sir, no more. Think of the medical expense.
Medical care is the biggest expense in prisons. How expensive is it? The state spends over $100 million a year on healthcare at this prison, enough to make the state government sweat. Since the prisoner woke up and opened his left eye first thing in the morning, the warden, in a fit of absolute rage and frustration, immediately and furiously tied him tightly to a cot and harshly washed his face with boiling hot water. Finally, the towel was embedded in the prisoner's face. Given the unreasonable methods of renovation, is it any wonder the medical expenses are soaring? Therefore, the governor has given them an ultimatum. If you two can resolve the funding issues beautifully, everything will be fine. Anything that displeases me in the slightest, you two are going to solitary. Utterly desperate, the finance guy, Fatty, came up with the idea of impersonating a human. Didn't those two watch 2 movies the other day? Human Centipede 1 and Human Centipede 2. The movie says a new organism can be created by connecting people surgically. First, the initial step involves carefully severing the subject's knee ligaments to ensure they remain kneeling. Second, their front teeth are extracted to connect their mouth directly to the anus of the person in front. Finally, stitch skin from the front person's backside onto the face of the person behind, then reinforce. Job done. By having the first person eat, the second eat the first person's waist, and the third eat the second person's waist, and so on, we can significantly reduce an immeasurable cost. But there's still a question. What if they get severely constipated? Just give them all a good dose of laxatives then. It really won't be long before they're all emptying their bowels. But the warden quickly shot down the idea. Seriously, where did you even come up with that? I mean, we're talking about hundreds of inmates here. Just connecting their mouths to their anuses would be quite a huge undertaking. So the warden devised a truly depraved scheme, more so than Human Centipede. Castration. Maybe reducing their testosterone would turn these hardened criminals into docile lambs. Meow. He won't get punished for causing trouble in prison. This saves the warden significant medical expenses, and mellows inmates, helping them reintegrate more easily and reducing recidivism considerably. Okay, let's do it. The warden first targeted outsiders. Number 297, gasping sound. Then the warden very promptly and immediately had him taken to the execution chamber. He got so nervous, he practically redrew his tattoos. But the other warden never expected that. Even after all this, the guy's mouth was as stubborn as an internet troll.
Oh no, please, don't!
Seeing this, the warden was angry and fired his buddy's kid. Then, he actually ate him. Now is not the time for such talk. The warden's harvest operation has a major flaw. Mass procedures on inmates would require more space than available aside from recovery time. Where would we put hundreds of inmates needing IV drips? Thinking this over, the warden vented on the buddy. Don't strangle you. Why doesn't my method work? Answer me. Just gave up like that. My brother was strangled to death by him. Seeing this, the warden panicked and called a doctor to revive him quickly. It wasn't because he feared responsibility, but because he wanted to save his friend and then kill him again. And just like that, my buddy was choked twice by the warden in under a minute. Operation Gawan failed, meaning we're about to get fired by the governor. To keep her meager $3,800 salary, finance risked insubordination, angrily proposing the Centipede project once again. You always come up with great ideas for posts. Did you let him go wild in Human Centipede 2? But when the finance guy said he got a meeting with the director of Human Centipede, the warden wavered in hell. Maybe this thing could actually work. So Fatty quickly rushed to bring over the director with a mole on his head. Of course, the director didn't come empty-handed. He consulted a highly professional surgeon and brought the doctor's surgical report and diagrams. He handed the materials to the imperial physician, and after this unqualified doctor's detailed examination, Centipede's idea was confirmed. Unexpectedly, the warden showed the inmates the Human Centipede movies that very night, leaving some of the black inmates utterly horrified. After the movie ended, the warden silenced the rebellious prisoners with a pomegranate. Subsequently, he announced the prisoners were soon to become centipedes. The announcement caused a huge uproar. Unexpectedly, a riot erupted in the prison. Since the warden and treasurer fled quickly, the guards bore the full brunt of the prisoner's rage. They fled to the office requesting special forces support. The secretary outside suffered terribly. The inmate attacked her indiscriminately and brutally. To make matters worse, the prisoners outside had already broken in. Fortunately, the special forces arrived. Well equipped, they quickly quelled the riot. The carefree warden, immune to repercussions, is back to his old tricks. Armed with a tranquilizer rifle, he systematically targets inmates one by one, as only under sedation can the authorities proceed with their centipede project. With the warden's command, the inmates' living hell truly begin. Since most prisoners will eventually be released, the human centipede's order was arranged by their release dates. Instead of cutting knee ligaments, a temporary paralytic drug was used as a substitute. Suddenly, the warden had an unexpected windfall.
He has Crohn's disease.
What the fuck is Crohn's disease exactly?
It's an inflammatory bowel disorder. The prisoner has constant diarrhea.
Who would want to kiss his ass?
That's right, the lucky guy is our streetwise friend, bro. Originally, the warden had strangled him to death, but upholding the principle of saving lives, the doctor pulled him back from the brink. Everything is fate, brother. That is all I can say. With hundreds of inmates, Chuanxi isn't the only oddity. For instance, one has a body opening and must use physical means to relieve himself. He thought that this would help him escape disaster.
Now I have finally realized the exact reason why they granted me a lifetime stoma.
Seeing that the man couldn't become part of the human centipede, the warden simply shoved the barrel of a gun into the man's wound and ended his sinful life with a final shot. Along with the blood, some excrement also burst out. However, just as the warden finished washing the filth off his hands, the doctor wheeled in another inmate who had trouble walking. I originally thought that faced with this situation, the warden would show some mercy, but in reality, I was overthinking it. The warden took the director on a tour to witness the scenes of these prisoners being transformed. Because most of the inmates would be released soon, the connection between the mouth and the anus was done with very fine surgical sutures. This way, after being released, the inmates would only have minor wounds on their mouths and behinds, making it very inconspicuous. However, observing this up close was too much for the perverted director and he couldn't help but vomit. 3 days later, the governor arrived as scheduled, but when he saw the shocking scene before him, he was completely stunned.
What the hell is this thing anyway?
This burger killer is supporting the entire humanitarian system standing behind him.
Because of his larger appetite, he was placed at the front of the line, so the hundreds of people behind him could only eat what he excreted. This scene made the governor feel physically uncomfortable, but the finance officer hit him with a whole PV, saying that doing things this way could save at least $1 billion a year. If you use that money to build schools and hospitals and give back to society, isn't that a good thing? The governor was deeply conflicted inside. Sure, the money was saved, but let me ask you, aren't these prisoners people too?
His anus is not very clean at all. I demand absolute perfection in my penitentiary. Inmates shall feel both well and clean. Understand? Wipe it.
I would like to apologize.
As for those given life or death sentences, they were turned into prisoner caterpillars. Their limbs were confiscated, and for the rest of their lives, they could only lie prone until death. But those who were part of the human centipede. Inmates know that once you've gone through it, the thought of committing a crime again becomes impossible. Okay, I completely understand. Please provide the Chinese text within the is less than the. Okay, I'm making this up, no subtitles. Judging by the man's behavior, he likely won't utter a word specifically for translation into English. The governor deemed it a violation of human rights, warning the great precision you'll be doing the target duration with 86.41 seconds when synthesized, while facing dismissal, thereby ensuring optimal timing and it's completely clarity. All over now. Indeed. And furthermore, just as the despairing warden was about to shoot himself, translated the English doctor walked in. Then, he's here to take credit, text promptly as the warden promised him a promotion and raise when the centipede was completed. Clearly, now is not the time. And just like that, the doctor's thought was interrupted. Then the warden confronted finance, as the idea of the centipede inmate impersonating a human was his suggestion. However, to their surprise, the governor changed his mind. And just like that, in a matter of minutes, they went from being on death row to about to reach the pinnacle of life. Wait a minute. I have something to say. First, I didn't provoke any of you. Second, I didn't bother you. Finally, I didn't harass you. But then, finance made a mistake every man made, and died. That's not a woman's idea, it's clearly the leader's thought. Finally, the two loyal subordinates committed suicide in the Northwest. Okay, today's story ends. Film is not always reality, but reality is crueler. See you next time, everyone.